Bomb disposal officers detonate World War II device in Cheung Kwan O landfill. Zimbabwe opposition rejects presidential election result as tensions persist. And Apple becomes the first company to reach $1 trillion in market value.
Good evening and welcome. Drama in the city. Today's another wartime device was found, this time at the Cheung Kwan O landfill. Pinky Wong was there.
The device might be hard to spot from a distance, but its impact was easily heard. Officers detonated it this evening at a section of the Cheung Kwan O landfill. Police issued these photos of the 300-pound shell, which contained 120 pounds of explosives. They were alerted this afternoon to the World War II device. It was roughly 1 meter long with a diameter of 23 centimeters. The discovery led to the evacuation of more than 100 workers nearby. Firefighters and police officers were on standby near the cordoned-off area.
向住呢一個點咧就發射過嘅。
Kwang Shimang, an assistant professor at Baptist University History Department, thinks the shell belonged to the British Navy. Having checked local records, he doesn't think a bomb was dropped at the location. In fact, he said there's a high chance the shell was transported to the landfill. Other wartime bombs have been found in the city this year. The last one was a US-made one discovered in Wan Chai. Pinky Wong, TVB News.
A transgendered person has challenged the way she was treated by local authorities after male enforcement agents conducted a strip search on her while in custody. Here's why the High Court ruled her judicial review application was partially successful. The High Court today handed down its decision on the Filipino applicant identified as R. Born a man, R sees himself as female and has been receiving hormone treatment since 12. She was 19 years old when arrested in Hong Kong 4 years ago. R went on to serve a 20-month jail term for 2 drug-related charges and 1 count of breaching conditions of stay. In this judicial review application, R accused local authorities of being unlawful and discriminatory. Reason being is that R, who despite retaining male genitalia had not developed an Adam's apple or a deep voice because of her hormone treatments. In fact, she had breast augmentation surgery but was strip searched by male officers and subsequently kept in male wards. The court ruled R to be successful on 2 grounds of her bid. Judge Thomas L. said current provisions state a search on a transgendered person should be conducted by an officer of the same biological sex that he or she were born with. Officers retain a discretion to decide how the search could be properly and lawfully conducted to protect an individual's dignity and privacy. He also agreed the delay for R to be referred to a consultant psychiatrist for hormone treatment is unreasonable. As R is only partially successful in this application, the judge said she will be entitled to 1/3 of the legal fees.
A man has been sentenced to 8 years in prison for killing his neighbor in Wong Tai Sin almost 2 years ago. Kana Chu has more.
55-year-old defendant Wang Yutming arrived at the High Court in a prison van this morning. He was accused of fatally jabbing a knife through his 49-year-old neighbor's neck in December 2016. This was after a row which happened at the lift lobby of Long Wai House at Wong Tai Sin Lower Estate. Wang was originally charged with murder but was later found guilty of manslaughter, a lesser offense. This, as Judge Joseph Yao noted that Wang had been repeatedly humiliated and intimidated prior to his criminal behavior. Jurors were unanimous that Wang had committed manslaughter due to provocation. The court also heard that Wang, living with his wife and daughter, had mobility issues since a stroke in 2002. He had been unemployed and survived on an $8,000 Social Security allowance. Yao said that Wang, despite having more than 30 criminal records, committed his last crime, which was unrelated to violence, in 2001. For this, he gave Wang a sentence of only 8 years behind bars. However, Yao noted that the tragedy could have been avoided had Wang handled the incident more rationally, especially by calling the police when the deceased intimidated him with a knife. Kana Chu, TVB News.
As the Sino-US trade dispute intensifies, the Hong Kong government is trying to calm nerves for local SMEs. Some of these firms can apply for up to $1 million in funding under an existing scheme to expand on the mainland and beyond.
Help the SMEs to think about whether they can explore some new markets under trade war. In terms of the BUD fund, which originally only targets projects in mainland market, we now extended its geographical scope to the ASEAN countries.
Tropical storm Zhongdari touched down in Shanghai this morning. It was so severe, authorities redirected more than 150,000 people to safety. You wouldn't want to be on a Ferris wheel in that kind of weather. According to the National Meteorological Center of China, Zhongdari was packing winds of up to 23 meters per second. Waves hit Jinshan district and halted all large-scale outdoor events across the city. Mainland authorities said Zhongdari is on a strange route. After passing Japan on Wednesday, it then moved towards the east coast of China. It is expected to continue moving northwest before weakening gradually.
Turning overseas now, Zimbabwe President Emmerson Mnangagwa was declared the winner of the presidential election yesterday after his party maintained control of parliament on Tuesday. The opposition party says the balloting was fraudulent and is almost certain to challenge the results in court. Alan Buckner reports.
Zimbabwe's Electoral Commission announced Mnangagwa had secured 50.8% of the vote, and his chief rival, opposition leader Nelson Chamisa, received 44.3%.
Therefore, Mnangagwa Emmerson Dambudzo of ZANU-PF party is therefore duly declared elected president of the Republic of Zimbabwe.
We as MDC Alliance totally reject the results that have been announced.
The opposition MDC party immediately rejected the outcome as fraudulent, and its chairman was ushered from the room. Victorious ZANU-PF members celebrated in the streets. Mnangagwa, who took over as president after strongman Robert Mugabe was forced from office last November, said he was humbled and called for calm. Opposition leader Nelson Chamisa, meanwhile, said the Electoral Commission suffered from truth deficiency and moral decay. Monday's election was Zimbabwe's first peaceful one in decades, but that was followed by riots on Wednesday that saw 6 people killed. This morning started with relative calm in the streets of Harare.
Yeah, I think he's the right man because he has been there for quite time, and he knows where the weaknesses are since he has got the experience from the previous event, the previous government. So he knows how to maneuver on all the problems that we have.
No, Zimbabwe is not going anywhere with President Emmerson Mnangagwa. We are sick and tired of ZANU-PF. For true, we are sick and tired.
Western election observers of Monday's election said there were several problems, including media bias, some degree of voter intimidation, and mistrust in the Electoral Commission. Their assessments are crucial to the lifting of sanctions on the country, whose economy collapsed under decades of rule by Robert Mugabe. Alan Buckner, TVB News.
Apple has become the world's first publicly traded company to have a market value of $1 trillion. It hit the trillion mark in midday trading in New York when its stock hit $207.04.
It shows that people don't mind paying $1,000 for a cell phone. Clearly, that does a lot of other things other than just make telephone calls. But I would say that 4 or 5 years ago, the idea of that might have been, you know what, that's a price point that people are probably going to say, you know what, enough's enough, I'm not going to pay $1,000 for a cell phone, that's crazy. That hasn't stopped their brisk sales in the iPhone 10 at all.
The achievement seemed unimaginable in 1997 when Apple teetered on the edge of bankruptcy, with its stock trading for less than $1. To survive, Apple brought back its once exiled co-founder Steve Jobs as interim CEO. It also turned to arch-rival Microsoft for a $150 million cash infusion. Jobs eventually introduced popular products such as the iPod and the iPhone that drove Apple's rise. The stock has been surging this week as anticipation mounts for the next generation of iPhone, expected to be released in September. Still ahead in tonight's news. New youth hostel in Sheungwan given the go-ahead. Former health minister says he is not running in November's LegCo by-election. And Donald Trump launches blistering new attack on the media, which critics say could endanger journalists.
不同年紀、不同階段，營養需要各有不同。良好免疫力之餘，要兼顧各方面嘅你，需要補充精力。50歲後需要茄紅素及其他營養素幫助維持心臟健康。不同年紀，善傳都能為你度身訂造全面營養素，助你挑戰亞健康。善傳為你度身打造健康生活。
Welcome back to TVB News. Would you choose to live next to the historic Manmo Temple on Hollywood Road? And what if rents were 40% less than market rates? As Christy Leung reports, the Town Planning Board today gave the green light to build a high-rise youth hostel next to the declared monument.
This vacant school next to the Manmo Temple on Hollywood Road will be transformed into a 21-story youth hostel with 300 new flats. That's after the Town Planning Board approved a proposal submitted by the Tonghua Group of Hospitals. It is a revised plan after the last one faced strong public opposition in 2016. Now the design seeks to better integrate the new hostel with the monument and local neighborhood, such as building further off Hollywood Road to align the block to the temple's entrance gate. Also, a heritage plaza with an 11-meter headroom on the ground floor, which will be opened to the public. White ceramic tiles will be used for the heritage plaza and the exterior wall of the hostel to maintain a low profile. Still, the Town Planning Board asked the charity to seek further approval from other government departments on water supply and fire facilities. Under the youth hostel scheme, which was rolled out in 2011, the government provides funding to non-governmental organizations to develop hostels. They are required to set their rents at 40% less than the market rate in the area. But the first hostel in Taipo will only be completed 8 years after the scheme was rolled out. Democratic Party lawmaker Roy Kong said it has taken too long for the first hostel to be ready, which has given false hope to young people. He added the government should speed up seeking land for more hostel projects. Christy Leung, TVB News.
The Housing Society saw a 5-time oversubscription to its transitional rental housing scheme. The deadline for applications to the scheme was today. Until yesterday, more than 1,200 applications were received for the 200 transitional flats to be offered in Yuekwang-chun, a government estate that will be redeveloped in 2023 at the earliest. The flats will be allocated to eligible individuals who have been waiting for public housing for at least 3 years. Those selected will be able to rent the flats at $500 to $1,400 a month for a minimum of 3 years.
Former Health Minister Ko Wing-man cleared the air today. He is not running in November's by-election for a seat in the legislature. Ko said he wants to focus on his medical practice and volunteer work overseas. The doctor was one of the more popular officials in the last administration. Reports have now emerged that his former political assistant might contest in the seat vacated after Lau Siu-lai was disqualified.
Overseas again, at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania, U.S. President Donald Trump used his meetings with Queen Elizabeth II and North Korea's leader to prove some media are fake and disgusting. His press secretary did the same.
The president was 15 minutes late for the Queen. Wrong. Number two, I guess the meeting was scheduled for 15 minutes and it lasted for almost an hour. The president overstayed. So I was late and I overstayed, and honestly, folks, it was such a beautiful, beautiful visit and afternoon. But they can make anything bad because they are the fake, disgusting news. And they're not launching missiles anymore. They haven't launched one in 9 months. I said, oh, the media is going to treat me finally so good. What do I read? Donald Trump isn't moving fast enough.
The media has attacked me personally on a number of occasions, including your own network, said I should be harassed as a life sentence, that I should be choked.
Well, Trump went on to slam the media for refusing to give him credit for a long list of accomplishments. He also mocked the press for saying he wasn't tough enough on Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Pope Francis has changed Catholic Church teaching about the death penalty, saying it is always inadmissible because it attacks the inherent dignity of all humans. Previously, the Catechism of the Catholic Church said the Church didn't exclude recourse to capital punishment. The new teaching says the previous policy is outdated. It states there are other ways to protect the common good and that the Church should instead commit itself to working to end capital punishment. The death penalty has been abolished in most of Europe and South America, but it is still in use in the United States and in several countries in Asia, Africa, and the Middle East.
The Philippines has hailed a new era of cooperation following last night's announcement that a draft of a pact with Southeast Asian nations and China has been agreed upon. It's aimed at preventing fights from breaking out over disputed territory within the South China Sea.
Very good inputs, and if most of it, even not all, will be finalized, we will see a new era of cooperation in the South China Sea, and the compliance with international law and UNCLOS is a given there.
Also on the sidelines of the annual meeting of ASEAN foreign ministers was a meeting between China's top diplomat, State Councilor Wang Yi, and U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo today. China and the United States are in the midst of an increasingly bitter trade war. North Korea's nuclear program also featured in the talks between Wang and Pompeo.
That's the news.